everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to continue our look at the great underground comics anthology, Snarf. We're up to number 7 here, and we start off with a really nice Art Spiegelman cover. This is such a bad joke, but it makes me chuckle every time I see it. Hey, bud, have you seen a guy with a wooden leg named Joe? I don't know, sport. What's the name of his other leg? Ow. Yeah, it's kind of weird that Art Spiegelman would make this cover just to have this dumb joke with 2 peg leg guys. Even the dog has a little peg leg. Art Spiegelman, even back in 1976, was really good at drawing very cute dogs. He's quite good at that. So we start off with Dreamhouse Bliss by Stephen Stiles. And this is, the caption starts off with saying that certain experts talk about how things in the near future are going to get pretty bad. You know, like things like Soylent Green and overpopulation. And, but so let's take a look for ourselves. And we see this guy with his nephew, and he's showing him his beautiful mansion. There's a beautiful view. He's got a garden and a beautiful patio. And then all of a sudden you hear crackle, crackle. The lights go out. And we see the reality. And the uncle is like, God damn it. My hologram projector just sorted out. And he's living in absolute squalor. So the future is a piece of shit. But people are so sad and depressed. They have these hologram projectors so they can pretend to live in not shit. This issue was published in 1977, by the way. Next, we have The Call of the Wild by Joel Beck. And this is about Harry Bear and his friend Brownie. And they're admiring Brownie's recent mounted human head. So basically, this is just flipping everything on its ear. These bears are like talking about all their like hunting humans and all their great hunts in the past. And they hear the call of the wild. And they're like, let's go to the big city. I want to go hunting. My wife will be back for a couple days. So I don't get this joke at all. They say, have you noticed how all these redwood trees look alike? And they're all this dude? I don't understand this at all. But it's a nice, bizarre touch. So everything's flipped. So they're like, it'll be so nice to get away from the racket and rat's race of the forest. The constant chirping of those damn birds. And the nice smog-filled air of the city will be, refreshing. So as soon as they get there, they shoot a fat public relations man. And they carry him to their car, but then it's rush hour. So they almost get run over. A while later, they see a little baby human, a little toddler. And they're like, oh my God, what's that? They call them Arkies. I might have missed something, but I don't know why they call humans Arkies. He's like, no, put that down. And then the mother shows up. And they have to shoot her because she attacks one of the bears. So they're like, well, we might as well take this cute little Arkie home. It could be a pet for the kids. A cop stops him and says, hey, shooting public relations man out of season. We're going to have to make a deal. So he takes the rump of the public relations man. So he gets home. The wife's glad to see him. The kids are thrilled that they got this new pet. But then the toddler pees on a Brownie, and he kicks him out of the house. The wife convinces him to, take him back. She's like, oh, you gave it to the kids. Come on. So 2 weeks later, they're like, they hear that call again. And they're like, let's go back to the city. And then we see 1 week later, there's a funeral, a reception, and I guess Brother Harry and Brother Brownie, or Harry and Brownie, were killed when 7 mad housewives attacked them while they're peacefully hunting in a laundromat in San Diego. And as they say grace over a human with an apple in his mouth, we see all the mounted heads on the wall of the other humans. And they all raise their glasses in a toast for the two bears. Not that funny, but nice cartooning by Joel Beck. It's pretty nice. Next we have Rosie the Riveter by Trina Robbins. And there's I think there's a bunch of these Rosie the Riveter stories. So she's in Hollywood. She's visiting Paramore Studios. She meets this Russian director, Boris Borscht. All of a sudden there's a commotion. And Betty Grable is refusing to sign autographs for the soldiers. She even says, I hate boys in uniform. So Boris leads her away. He's like, oh, come with me, darling. You can lie down for a while. Rosie notices that something's up. She says, Betty Grable's definitely acting weird, and even the director's acting at it kind of weird. I better tail him. So she finds Boris going into this abandoned warehouse. And there's all of these Hollywood starlets tied up and some mad scientist type making robot doppelgangers of all of the pinup girls of the 40s. Basically, it's, without their pinup girls, the servicemen will have no morale, because that kept morale high. People like Betty Grable, every soldier had her picture in his footlocker. But then Rosie makes her move. And the doctor, the mad scientist, sends his Jane Russell robot to attack her. That's a pretty awesome cat fight. She frees Veronica Lake. And she's like, oh my God, my double is probably, causing untold damage back at the studio. We gotta hurry back. We see the Veronica Lake robot being really rude at this restaurant, demanding she get some sauerkraut. I don't know why the scientists, made these lifelike robots, but they talk like Germans, and it's pretty obvious that they're, they're kind of pro-Nazi. So all of the freed pinup girls, with Rosie leading them, they shoot the Veronica Lake robot, and the day is saved. And the head honcho at the studio, he offers her a screen test, and she says, nope, I'm needed on the production line. And he asks her, he says, how do we know they caught all the robots? And Rosie says, you mean there still might be a fascist robot movie star here in the studio, waiting for the right time in the future to destroy the good old US of A? We may never know. And then we see young Ronald Reagan, ready for take 5, Ronnie. Bzz, click coming. I love that ending. It was great. And then we have a little Rosie's puzzles and gags. Using 5 ordinary matches, how can you make a Nazi cross? Stick 4 of them in his ears and use the 5th one to light it. That's a good one. Next, we have another Joel Beck strip, The Bill Bland Show. And this is the guy who invented the smiley button. They're interviewing him. Bill Bland is bringing up all these problems with the world, unemployment, just Vietnam, so many problems, nuclear energy, nuclear fallout. And the whole time the guy just smiles. And then finally, I guess his only rebuttal is to bring out his new line of smiley faces, Black, Chinese, and Jewish. All very nasty little stereotypical buttons. So that's all he has to say in the subject. That's his answer to everything. Next, we have another George Metzger strip, another one of his hippie tales, Gypsy Ginger. So we're out in the commune, out in nature. Gypsy Ginger shows up. He's on a drug run, decides to stop in and say hi to his friends, which maybe is George Metzger. the author. And he says, hey, I got to run into the city. You want to come with me? And his wife is like, oh, you should. You've been working too hard. And you can get me some stuff in the city. I'll give you a list. You could trade some of our weed for some hash. So they drive off. The wife is happy she's got the place all to herself. She had an ulterior motive. And as they get into the city, I'll call him Metzger. Metzger's eyes start burning because of the smog. Gets hassled by a cop. They find this parking spot really far from this crash pad they're going to hang out at. And he can't get to sleep because it's just the floor is, there's like 30 people in this small apartment. And like 4 of them are fucking late into the night, making sounds. So, he's talking about how he needs to buy some bullets while he's in the city. He basically for deer hunting. Well, not deer hunting, just shooing off deer. The deer eat his vegetables, so he feels it's okay to eat them. This one hippie chick is really offended. She's a vegetarian. And this guy says, well, you know what you really need? You need tiger poop. Lion shit. Those deers won't go around. They'll smell that and they won't come anywhere near your garden. So they go outside and Gypsy Ginger's truck is gone. So they figure, okay, we'll sell some dope. We'll get the money to get it out of Hawk. And then this guy overhears them in the alley he's got a gun. He says, give me the pot, give me all your money. They walk back to the crash pad and get drunk. And this guy Leroy comes in. The guy who told him about the lion shit. And he's got a giant bag of lion shit. Everyone in the crash pad's like, oh, God, that smell. So I guess he was tripping balls or high as hell. And he was in the zoo. And he just got the notion. He said, I'm going to get some of that lion shit for my buddy. And so he's all clawed and everything. It's kind of ridiculous. And so basically, Metzger just says, I'm going home. I'm going to hitch a ride home. And he brings the tiger poop with him, so it's hard to get a ride for very long. And he makes it back to the place. And then it's one of those cutesy jokes at the end where some other traveling hippies visit them and say, hey, you want to go to the city with us? And at the last panel, I see Metzger hiding under the bed. He could have just said no. But kind of typical. It's a very typical cutesy comic ending. Oh, this is great. Pups in Paradise by Kim Deitch, one of the great storytellers in any medium. So we start off where Elsie Peachtree is this retired film star. She's hanging out in her mansion with her 3 little Shih Tzu dogs and her husband, Larry Farrell, also a retired actor. So she basically kind of wants to change her will. She's really worried about her dogs, what's going to happen to them after she dies. She's a Christian. She's not worried about herself. She knows she'll be in heaven with the Lord, but she's not so sure dogs have souls and will be allowed into heaven. So I think Larry's worried that she's going to will most of her money to the dogs for their upkeep. So Larry meets with Miles Mycroft, psychic investigator, and his feisty midget wife Blanche at a drugstore. And these are long-running Deitch characters. So he wants them to, he's been taking spirit photographs of the Shih Tzus. It's like Winston Churchill is one of their spirits. I don't recognize these 2 other guys. And he wants Miles and Blanche to verify them for his wife, for Elsie. And Blanche will do nothing of the kind. She's like, not without proof, you know. We're not, you can't buy us. She's just very upright, you know. So she goes to the house. She's going to inspect this process. She's also going to bring her own control camera and say, you have to use this. So he takes all these pictures of the parrot. Nothing. So Elsie sends the butler down, calls Blanche up to her room. She wants to talk to him, or just to see her. So they hug. I guess they're old friends. And he sees how happy she is, knowing that her dogs are going to go to heaven because of that spirit photo. And she's about to tell her, like, Elsie, about that photo. And she sees that she's so relieved about them going to heaven that she doesn't say anything. But then Larry runs in with a new spirit photograph, and it's the parrot, and it looks like W.C. Fields is in his soul. And Elsie's thrilled, and Blanche just covers her eyes and just says, I gewalt. This story was made in collaboration with Sally Cruikshank, by the way. The story, not the art. Next, we have Matriculation with Kiwi Brown and the Statistics by Justin Green. Man, this is such a good issue. These are like some of my favorite underground cartoonists. And this one's weird. We see these guys at graduation, and everyone's drawn as one of those generic statistic figures, black round heads. And they make it seem like it's the starting gun of a race now. And you're off to make money with your diploma. And it even says, the race is on. Dog eat dog, dog eat dog. He gets trampled, and then he loses his diploma. And he's like, oh, shit. He finds this factory type place that will give him a job even without a diploma. But it's a pretty lowly job. He's a mail handler. And this place looks like a concentration camp. It even has barbed wire fences around it. Man-Hour Incorporated. And he gets there, and it is grueling. It's a terrible job. The Kiwi, I should say. He's the star. Kiwi Brown. Oh. I wonder if he's related to Binky. So at lunchtime, he decides to make a run for it. And he tries to fly over the wall, but he's a Kiwi. They're not very good flyers. In fact, they can't fly at all, I don't think, right? And they capture him. They give him another chance. They give him an even worse job. Kiwi says it looks like an ant farm down here. And he's got this crazy job where he has to take mail sacks and throw them in one of three different holes, depending on these guys on these high chairs barking orders at them. And he gets so overwhelmed that he falls into one of the holes. His overlords just kind of laugh, like, oh, lost another one. This art is very odd. I guess just because so many of the characters have these black faces. And I'm not used to Justin Green drawing funny animals. So if you showed me this page, I might not know it was Justin Green. But it's almost like the density of it. And you can almost tell it's Justin Green. And, he does have a distinctive inking style, too. So we see the train picks up the mail, takes it to the next town, and the postman there opens up a sack. And it's Kiwi's dead body. He says, this is the strangest dead letter I've ever seen. Pretty gruesome end. Another Joel Beck strip, Ernie and Al, the over-the-hill Vietnamese tigers. And we see these guys reminiscing. They're old, so they have bad teeth. It's hard for them to hunt and get game. They can't even chew it very well. And they're reminiscing about how great the Vietnam War was. How we had all these just dead bodies lying around. Sometimes live bodies. You could eat them too. The soldiers, the American soldiers. And they're like, man, what I wouldn't give for another war. So we see later at the airport, they're buying 2 tickets to Beirut, Lebanon. Not that funny. It's cute. Next, we have The Secret Agent. And we're in a small town in Eastern Europe. Pretty much changed by the communists. Just a sleepy little town. This chess master Vukic, and his wife Nona get on the train. They just came back from a tournament. They sit next to this passenger. His name's Dr. Bohm, and he's honored. He totally knows about Vukic. So I guess there's been some tumult very close by. I guess the premier of Albania was just murdered in his hotel room, not 2 kilometers from here. Right during this chess match. I didn't mention Vunic is blind. And that's why his wife is always traveling with him, leading him around. And the Albanian premier was stabbed with a letter opener. Guards heard a woman's laugh. So Vunic says, an identical crime was committed during a tournament in Serbia just after the war. Maybe is that okay if I tell you the story? And he's like, yeah, that'll pass the time. This would be great. So Vunic and Nona were traveling there to be in the tournament. It was right after the war, so the accommodations weren't that great. It was in some old castle. And it was the first time all these foreign guys got to play chess with each other because the war separated everyone. One night, a Soviet commissar showed up at the castle, and supposedly he was there on party business. He took a liking to this young maid, Tatiana, and she tried to avoid him. But one morning, they found his dead body in bed, stabbed with a silver letter opener. The papers denouncing party liberals he was known to be carrying had disappeared. Guys, I didn't even mention, this is Sharon Rudahl. Sorry about that. Really like Sharon Rudahl. She tells really good stories. And I kind of like her art. It's not my favorite, but it seems to work pretty well with the stories she tells. The only clue... I'm sorry, did I finish that sentence? The papers denouncing party liberals disappeared. The only clue was a scrap of black lace, perhaps torn from a lady's dressing gown. So they questioned everyone, including Vunic and Nona. And they have an alibi. It's like, oh, she was reading to me all night. I have insomnia. When they went to interrogate the maids, Tatiana was found poisoned with a suicide note beside her. Tatiana was denounced as a Serbian separatist, and the case was closed. Nona and Vunic returned safely to the West. They're from Vienna. A few years later, though, Tatiana's young boyfriend came forward with new evidence. She couldn't have done it. She was in my arms all that night. I was just too afraid to speak all this time. So the true assassin was never found. And Nona says, life is full of mysteries. And Vunic comments, he says, my poor faithful Nona, content to spend her whole life guiding me from place to place. She says, oh, it's been a full life, though, dearest one. And they bid farewell to Dr. Bohm. And as he's helping, he hands her bags to her. He says, oh, what a lovely shawl, Mrs. Vukic. A pity it's torn. And we see that her shawl is like black lace. And she says, my shawl was torn long ago. Like I said, a full life, Dr. Bohm. So, yeah, you can put 2 and 2 together there. And interesting little tale. Next, we have How Barefoots was created by Howard Cruse. This is one of my favorite Barefoot stories ever because Barefoots barely appears in it. But beautiful Howard Cruse cartooning appears in it. So it's Howard Cruse, like autobio tale, where he's telling how he came up with Barefoots. We see him in 1970, tripping balls on acid. God, this panel, guys, this is a gold star shit. This is some nice stuff. Even Henry shows up. If you look really closely, there's Henry. But man, this is fun stuff to look at. He's so deft with that pen, man, Howard Cruse. Just tight as hell. But also just the imagination, his character designs, that's really incredible stuff. Even this logo, this filigree, whatever you call this coming out, it's amazing stuff. He's just a really great craftsman. So he's basically set out to have this great night, tripping balls by himself. And he has a few psychic tune-ups along the way. More really clever cartooning going on here. He's getting refueled from the fantasy pump by these very bizarro Wolverton-like gas attendants, pump jockeys. He says, I sometimes had a tendency to get serious on acid, but not this time. So he's having this great time. All of his worries about being kind of a failed cartoonist, he wasn't doing very good then, wasn't getting much work. They all melted away, and he was bouncing along the planets, feeling free as a bird. Just a great trip. But then all of a sudden, this hand, almost like the hand of God, grabs him and says, yeah, you're needed back on Earth, sonny. And so he comes down to Earth, right in the kitty litter. And when he looks at the kitty litter, he sees all the suffering people of the world. And so it looks like his good trip is turning into a bummer. And he says, but what can I do to relieve all of this misery? And this great voice comes booming from the sky. What they all need is a good chuckle, boy. And he saw a spectacular vision etched on my memory to this day. His memory. And his barefoots. God had revealed barefoots to me so that I could use his cosmic humor to save the world. And he's been following me ever since. And Barefoots is like grabbing his leg. Daddy. It's the one thing I didn't like about this comic is the ending. Because, fuck this God if he sent Barefoots to share his cosmic humor with us. It's like, I need a good chuckle. I don't need to be annoyed. Barefoots I don't think has ever made me chuckle. And he just looks annoying. But man, what a beautifully cartooned comic, all around. Howard Cruse is so good. And I know these Barefoot strips, I'm always poo-pooing them because I hate them. But his cartooning is impeccable. Really good stuff. And yet another Joel Beck strip. It's a Dog's Life. And we see this elderly couple. They're talking about their dog. They're like, hey, he's getting a little long in the tooth. His hair's falling out. Smells pretty bad. And as they're talking, the dog realizes, oh shit, I see where this conversation is heading. And he starts like dancing and acting all animated. Because they're like, yeah, poor thing just doesn't seem to want to live anymore. It's so sad. Yes, it seems kind of cruel for us to let him go on. Yeah, I feel guilty every time I look at him. He's going crazy now. He's just like, no, I'm fine. And so they take him down to the pound and they put him in the gas chamber. And guys, this is like the least funny strip I've ever read in my life. Like Joel Beck always does these kind of gag strips. And this is how the comic ends. And the dog thinking to himself, oh, that's the thanks and reward I get for a lifetime of obedience and dedication. And the gas comes in. He goes, arf, and then everything goes black. I'm like, fuck you, Joel Beck. I don't want to read that. It's those people who won't even watch movies if a dog's harmed in it. This is not good. They would probably rip up this comic. But man, what a bleak fucking comic. And Joel Beck, he draws all cute and funny, but that's just bizarre that it ends that way. We have a Steve Stiles back cover. A message from your government. Kill a guru. I don't really get the satire of this, to be honest, but it's basically exhorting us to go kill a guru, because gurus spread disinterest in life as we know it, contributing to the decline of Western civilization, I guess. Sparky says, off an avatar today, one less ashram tomorrow. I like that drawing of that robot. But yeah, this whole thing is really well drawn, but I don't really get, it's kind of nonsensical. I think it's supposed to be some kind of satire or something. So there you go, guys. Snarf number 7, another great issue of this, I guess the idea of this comic is just to be funny. A lot of the undergrounds were political or other things, but Seems like Dennis Kitchen really wants us to just be yuks aplenty. And for the most part, they do a pretty good job. And on top of that, they have some just amazing cartoonists drawing these strips. Even when they're not that funny, they're pretty beautifully drawn because he gets some of the cream of the crop, the underground. So that's it. Hope you liked it. And I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.